Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode at the Warehouse Underground podcast series. This one is episode 15. I'm Ben, the host of the show, and with me today, super cool guest. Very excited about having this person on the show. Her name is Kelly Dockrell Brown. She is the creator of a very successful recruiting firm called Acclaim Recruiters. Now, it serves lots of different industries, but a main one that it does is supply chain and distribution. And that's why I reached out to her to come on the podcast. However, lots of more cool stuff is she doing in her life. She is a published author. She is a motivational speaker and recently became an Air Force spouse, which is near and dear to my heart because, as most of you know, I'm an Air Force veteran. So excited to talk to her today about just recruiting and profile optimization and all that stuff. But who knows? Who knows what may come up during the show? You never know. So with that, I will go ahead and bring her onto the stage. Hey, Kelly. Welcome to the Warehouse Underground podcast. How are you today, my friend?
I am great. What an intro. I appreciate it. That was awesome.
Yeah, so I reached out to you on LinkedIn, as I do a lot of the interesting people that I meet in this industry, because I get a lot of questions with who I'm networked in about stuff that's probably better suited for a recruiter. So I wanted to find a recruiter. And then when I stumbled across your stuff, I thought, oh man, this person's be great for the show. They're very successful. They are well entrenched in the game. They're not afraid to speak their mind, and they offer a lot of value out there to the people. And so I'm like, I want to reach out to her. And when you reach out to people, you never know. You're either going to get crickets, they don't respond to you, or thank you, but have a nice day. Or category 3, they're like, yes, I will go on a random podcast with someone I've never met. And that's you. You fall in category 3. So I appreciate that. But I think that says something about you and your character. So thank you again.
Yeah, you definitely have to be a little crazy and a little weird to be in the logistics transportation industry as a whole. So
oh, yeah.
I definitely check those boxes.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So before we get too much into recruiting and all that stuff that I kind of teased at in the intro, you have a very interesting and unique and really inspiring background. You just tell the audience a little bit about kind of your background and what brought you to where you are today with Acclaim Recruiters.
Yeah. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because it's obviously a very long story. But I actually started in logistics transportation back when I was still in college in Miami. So I was just trying to find a job and get some sales experience. And I found an NVOCC that was looking to hire a college student, like an internship. And the truth is they asked me in the interview, Kelly, do you know what a container is? And I was like, no idea. But this company specifically, they wanted to target the Northeast. And being that I'm from New York, they needed somebody with a New York accent to call on those accounts. So
makes sense.
So I learned very quickly. I got a stack of bill of ladings on my desk and I would just cold call all day and ask people where the freight came from. And they'd name off Qingdao, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Yantian. And really quickly, you just have to decipher where they're speaking about. But I ended up working there. And then lo and behold, by just kind of fate and chances, I met some people at a restaurant one day that worked for a company called Eagle. So Eagle Global Logistics was pretty big back in like the 90s, early 2000s, owned by Jim Crane. And they basically brought me over to Eagle Global, which then became SIVA. And I worked there. I was a college student, still a full-time college student, but started working full-time and really kind of made a name for myself in sales and ended up becoming a global leader and recognized pretty early on that within the transportation space, the aviation aerospace was the trajectory that I was going to follow in my career. Because you're shipping aircraft engines all over the world, high value, heavy, gotta go. So I really pursued that probably for about 15 years. It did get to the point though where I woke up one morning, I was like, wait a second, this was just supposed to be a college internship. Like, what am I still doing here?
Yeah.
And yeah, sure enough, I kind of knew that I wanted to pivot into recruiting back in 2014. I had read Tim Ferriss's book, which is the 4-Hour Work Week. And back then, and if you've read the book, it's brilliant. It's still very relevant today. But he says, take the one skill as it relates to your career and what is the most value that you bring. And I knew that I was a great networker. I could put people together for purpose. So lo and behold, fast forward, I was kind of at the top of my career in 2017. I became a global director for the aviation aerospace vertical. And I mean, I really built up a massive book of business and really understood this environment, became an expert in global supply chain solutions. But in 2017, I had basically this God-sized awakening where God spoke to me one day and told me to change directions and give it all up and move to Hawaii. So I did. And
It's faith.
yes. It's a wild experience, especially because, I mean, when you've been working in your career for so long and you know so many people, and then from one day to the next, you quit and you move to Hawaii, most people are like, all right, Kelly's lost her mind. So it was a big shakeup. And, you know, a lot of the times too, when God questions you to do something, you know, you basically move when you've felt like it was this total like God-sized moment. But of course, the journey, you're still kind of questioning like, dude, what did I give all this up for? I just gave away everything I own. I quit my job and now I'm going to Hawaii for what? So I did. I gave away everything, moved to Hawaii. Fast forward, while I was in Hawaii, the second awakening that I had, the second God-sized calling that I had was to launch Acclaim Recruiters. And it basically just came through prayer and meditation. And I kind of got a blueprint downloaded into me. And then boom, launched the company. And it was interesting because it was full circle because I was able to revert back. And now a lot of the companies that I worked with are now my clients. So that's
and that's impressive. I mean, that level of, I think, leap that you took is rare. I think. I mean, that's just rare. I don't know if that many people that are willing to send it that far. I mean, that's a far send. So,
listen, it's the craziest thing that's ever happened in my life. And so when I got to Hawaii in 2018, I felt like God told me to write it all down because I've always been a writer by nature. So I did. I wrote the book in 2018 because it was such a wild experience from leaving corporate America to now kind of pursuing this almost like a homeless journey to get to Hawaii. And then everything that transpired during that time frame. And then I wrote the book because it was such a wild story that I had to share. And then sure enough, about a year ago, I had the book, I wrote it, I didn't do anything with it. So a year ago, I felt like God told me to actually put it out there and publish it.
Yeah. Well, you know, but the thing about it is, and I've talked to people about this before, when you feel that message, that moment, like you got to jump on that because that's such a gift. And you might not really realize it because not everybody feels that fire and feels that passion in their life and their career. So if you do, you got to go, because if you stay and you're too timid, then that fear of or that pain of regret, as they say, very cliche, is going to be way more intense and powerful than the kind of the fear of the unknown. And like, maybe you saw this, but like, and I've sort of seen this with a little bit with the Warehouse Underground, the website, is that it's hard at first, but then once you take the first step and then the second step and you start doing it and you sort of step into your own power, like your own passion, then it becomes not so scary, right? And then it becomes kind of invigorating and exciting. Maybe you felt that too.
It's funny because I try to be raw in the book. And like the one thing that I try to explain to people, especially because now if you see pictures of my husband and I, and obviously the success of the company where everything looks like it's rainbows and butterflies and it's always been beautiful. But I think I really wanted to be raw and authentic and share like, here's how I got to where I am today. And I took a major risk. And a lot of the times I'd be like, well, what did I just do? Like, why am I doing this? I gave up everything I worked so hard for. And you question it, you yell at God. I did, at least. A lot of tears, really just trying to figure it all out. So just because you're called to something that's like God-sized and enormous, it's not going to be perfect.
Not a straight line.
It's never. No. And
no.
Some of the wildest stories of the most successful people I know, I mean, have gone through these challenges, and everybody's different. So what I'm trying to show is that sometimes you need to step out and take that leap of faith. And you're right. So you don't regret it, but also put yourself in a position that failure is not an option. You know, so when I moved to Hawaii, I knew that I had nothing to go back to. So therefore, I only could pursue the path that was before me. But it's never perfect. Same thing when I was given the blueprint to launch Acclaim Recruiters. Like you would think like, boom, I have this fabulous company. I have the expertise and the know-how. But truth be told, I mean, I ran into so many walls in the first 5 months where I was like, did I hear that wrong? Was I not supposed to launch this company?
Yeah.
I burned my domains like very, very quickly. Couldn't get emails out, nothing, couldn't basically generate any business. So it was a long, hard road to get to the stage that we are today. And it's mainly comes back to perseverance, really.
Yeah. And that's that grit. I mean, I've never heard of a successful person that is, when they tell their story, that it's not like that, like what you just described. Like no one is on a straight line. It may seem that way because you only really see the face of it and the tip of the iceberg, to use a very bad and overused term, but it's true. I mean, there's so many scars and sleepless nights and everything that comes with it. And what separates it really is just, they just didn't quit. You know, they just kept on doing it and kept pushing it and kept believing in it. And so speaking about like that, like your work now, I mean, you're a very successful recruiting firm, Acclaim Recruiters. Then you work with lots of different people from all across different industries. So like what fuels you now? I mean, what fuels that fire? I mean, before it was just this unknown and bringing this thing into existence, which did not exist. I'm creating this vision, but now that you're running it and you're operating it, I mean, what fuels that drive to do what you do now inside of the business instead of sort of just creating it and bringing it to fruition?
Yeah, I think in life, especially my Christian walk, I do recognize that God gives everybody a platform and a pedestal. And wherever he places you, it could be ministry, it could be business, whatever it is, like he's going to put you there because you bring value to other people and purpose and lives. So, you know, when I look at somebody's career and your livelihood, it truly equates to about 80% of your life. And therefore choose wisely. I mean, I talked to a guy just this morning and he was just explaining that he's employed, but he's not happy. And I said to him, I bet on Sunday nights, you dread having to go to work tomorrow on a Monday morning. And he said, you nailed it on the head. He's like, every Sunday night, he's like, I almost get anxiety and a depression. And to be able to navigate somebody to, you know, place them where I know the company or I know the client that we work with, and I could see that it's going to be a mutually beneficial relationship. I mean, it's just very exciting when magic happens between a candidate and a client. And then, of course, you know, you hear from that person, you know, 6 months, 9 months down the road, and they're just like, wow, you know, you've changed my life. And I'm so grateful that you found me and placed me with this company, and it's everything I could have hoped for. So
and I would think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, so that's basically what fuels me.
I would think too, like what you described is, you say, I'm in this position now, this unique position, and I have this platform, I have this reach, I have this visibility that you don't. Like you can't see how this works. And so maybe you sort of feel that drive of, I'm in a position where I can do this, where I can help another human, and I should do it, right? It's kind of almost like not quite an obligation. That's not really probably a good word for it, but to people who much is given, much is expected type thing. And so maybe there's some of that, because I know that you're connected with a lot of people online and probably many more out there in the industry. So most people are not that. Most people just have their little inner circle and that's it.
Yeah. It's so cool doing what I do now, knowing what I know about the industry, because now I truly have an aerial view of the industry as a whole, especially as it relates to, like, you know, freight forwarders, 3PLs, domestic 3PLs. Like, I absolutely know what goes on with many of these companies. And, you know, even if a candidate comes to me and says, hey, Cal, I'm interviewing with such and such company, what can you tell me? What do you know? And I'm always going to be honest and upfront, because look, I care about people. When I was working for SIVA, back in the day, it was absolutely frowned on if I was caught talking to a competitor or a
Oh yeah.
recruiter. I mean, you're basically putting your job on the line. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have taken more calls from recruiters. I would have
Yeah.
known my worth in the market. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, recruiting does look, we obviously have a bad rep in the industry because we're known for ghosting people. We're
Mhm.
known for always putting ourselves first because usually we're only compensated if the candidate gets hired. So they're going
Mhm.
to try to force you into a position in order to get a paycheck that week. And I
Yeah.
just don't play that way. The
Yeah.
industry is way too small. And if I get a bad name in this industry, that's it. I'm out. So
That's not a long-term strategy though,
no,
because you're gonna burn some bridges and you're gonna ruffle some feathers, and that catch up to you after a while, I think. So the long-term game, I think, is what you're doing. So let me ask you this. So, I mean, one of the things that people will sometimes say, and maybe this is how it used to be back in the day, but this space with candidate and company and recruiter used to kind of be very, I don't want to say cold because cold's not a good word for it, but just sort of transactional
yeah,
type thing. But it seems like now in 2025 with more social media and LinkedIn that it's not as cold and transactional as it used to be. So do you think that people are finding more success out there if they're really trying to focus on relationship building and building that network, or not? I mean, is the supply chain space still cold and transactional, or is it moving into that relationship is even more important than it used to be in the past, personalities and stuff?
so are you talking about the space in the transportation industry as a whole, or the relationship between candidates and recruiters? Would you say?
No, candidates and recruiters.
Okay.
No,
Okay. So
yeah,
let me
yeah,
fill you in on something that's super interesting. So when you look at the logistics transportation industry, it's very vast and it's
yep,
big, but it's very small and it's very tight knit. So we all tend to come across one another or various companies. And if you've been in it long enough, you tend to know a lot of people.
yep.
Well, what's interesting is that recruiting is very similar, vast,
Mm,
global, but also very small and tight knit. So, 5, 10 years ago, recruiting companies never spoke to one another. Now we all collaborate a lot and we use like the
mm,
same coaches and the same technology. So, what happens in recruiting is there's a list that usually goes out, and it's like, here's the low hanging fruit of the various industries that you should
mm,
pursue that are currently hiring that you can onboard as your client. So now you've got all these recruiters out there, everybody under the sun, going after logistics transportation as an industry that don't know the first thing about this industry.
yeah,
And the US as a whole is known the number one recruiting space internationally. So now you've got recruiters out of the UK that are calling on clients and saying, hey, we could find you candidates, but they can't tell you what the term LTL means, right?
yeah,
So so that has definitely muddied the waters because obviously you do have people that don't have the ins and don't understand what we do in the freight
mm,
space. But so in that sense, I would say it still remains cold and transactional
mm,
because a lot of companies have gotten very good at the technology piece and reaching out to clients and saying, hey, we can help you hire. We know this space. We're experts
yeah,
in freight and transportation. And obviously it's all about, churning a dollar.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
makes it sad because do they really care? Do they really get to know what the strengths are for the candidate and the client? Because there's so many different facets to this industry.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I follow you on LinkedIn, and by the way, if you don't follow Kelly on LinkedIn, you definitely should consider that because she's putting out a ton of free, valuable insights and valuable content, right? So just giving you that free plug there. Um, but you offer a lot of great advice. But as well as I do that a lot of people out there on LinkedIn or social media are just quiet, right? They're not engaging. They just kind of have their stuff up there, and then that's it. So do you, I mean, when you have clients or when you have candidates that you're working with, and they have a very sloppy profile, right? A very sloppy LinkedIn profile or a very toned down sort of social media awareness or platform. Do you find that you have to kind of coach them up a little bit I mean, do people come to you and say, hey, I want to get better at this. I want to make my profile more optimized. Do you do that? I mean, do you coach people on that? Because I think that you would be in a perfect position to do that because you're right there on the front line. So is that part of it? Or, I mean, are you not into that type of that type of coaching service, I
No,
guess?
100%. Great question, Ben. So look, I've been on LinkedIn myself since 2007, and I've utilized it throughout my entire career. I've landed massive accounts just by being active on LinkedIn. At this point, I'm up to just below 30,000 followers, but that's because you have to continue to work the platform and understand how algorithms work. And if you listen to Gary Vee or really any of these guys, they'll say for professionals, your number one branding tool to really get yourself out there is absolutely LinkedIn. If you have a mediocre LinkedIn profile, you're 100% selling yourself short. So when I have candidates that reach out to me and they ask if I can place them in a role and I don't have open roles, I basically coach them and I explain to them as recruiters, our number one sourcing tool is going to be through LinkedIn. So therefore, if your LinkedIn profile isn't optimized, you're not going to end up in the funnel of a recruiter reaching out to you for an opportunity. So what we do is somebody reaches out to me looking for a role and seeing if I can help them. I turn it around and I explain to them, how we work as recruiters. We do actually offer LinkedIn profile enhancement services, which basically position you so that way everything that we're using, the tools that we use as a recruiter to source and scrape candidates for a role, we're going to reverse engineer your profile in it to make sure that you're captured and branded to basically position yourself for the next level opportunity. And it's very specific. It's not cookie cutter. We're not basically, cut and paste, everybody's profile. It's like, how can we establish you and set you up to be successful based on keywords, SEO, all the things that we look for as recruiters, but also aesthetically. What headline should we use? We do a banner to make sure that you're going to stand out because it is so competitive out there right now. We know that the logistics industry as a whole is super wonky, but if you're not standing out on LinkedIn, and if you think that your resume is going to get you anywhere, especially in this age of technology, you're absolutely selling yourself short. So yes, we do the profile enhancement.
And me and you, I mean, we're on LinkedIn all the time. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I live there. And so you start to, you see what's hot, right? Like you see what's hot, you see what's working, you see what resonates and everything. But for people that aren't, they've been in a job for 7-8 years and now all of a sudden there was a layoff or something and they think, okay, well, I need to update my resume. And I say to them, that's not enough anymore. I mean, in fact, I would spend less time on your resume and way more time on your LinkedIn profile because that's where everybody's at. I mean, that's how it's working. Obviously, you want to have that resume, but if that's just it, I mean, if you're just applying the jobs with that resume, that's not a good enough bait, right? To use kind of a fishing analogy. You got to make that bait look real pretty and bright. And then when you throw it out, fish will bite on it. But I think that it just doesn't come naturally for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's why it's great to have an asset like you that not only knows the game, right? You know what other people want, but I can help you sort of pick my brain, right? For a fee, right? I can help you pick my brain and we can do this together and it'll be well worth it in the long run. Because if you're not on LinkedIn, I'm not sure I know of many people that got hired that were not on LinkedIn at all, at least not for a big time job, right? Like not for a big professional job, because there's a lot riding on it when a company makes a hire at that level and they want to be able to tell their boss, no, I vetted this person. All right, here's their profile, look everything, not just, well, they had a LinkedIn, but it was just name and a couple of bullets and that was it.
Yeah.
That's just not going to work.
It's so key. It's so valuable because here's the thing. I try to explain to people, you are the brand. The company that pays you is not who you are. You are the brand and you need to represent yourself and you need to stand out. And, if you think back to MySpace, back when we were all coders and we had music on our profiles and background pictures, LinkedIn's model is still very clean and specific as it relates to a professional networking organization. So the one place that you can really stand out is your banner. And unless your company tells you that you must have their company as your banner on your profile, no, that's prime real estate to really showcase who you are and stand out in the competition. So yeah, I mean, look, this is exactly what we do. We're experts, obviously, as recruiters on what hiring managers and companies look for. I myself, personally, I'm an expert at LinkedIn as a whole. So yeah, if anybody out there needs to actually update this, talk to us. Like, this is 100% what we do. We could position you to look like an absolute rock star.
Yeah. And I've had people come to me and they go through my stuff, and I'm like, listen, this is going to be hard for you to take, but what I'm about to tell you is the truth. And that is that inside the four walls of a distribution center, to kind of take it back to that, the numbers are very important, right? Your percentages and your percent gains or reductions or whatever, very important in there. But when you get out into the big field or the big lake where all of the fish are, all those numbers start to blend together. You see so many, like I come across so many profiles because I'm networked with a lot of people building the website, and it all looks the same, right? Yep. And so I'm like, if you think that you're going to have this fancy number, well, look, I'm 86% on this, or I'm 54% on this, means nothing to a hiring manager, because they see quantifiable. No, because they see 100 people that have that same thing. So you gotta like, what's going to differentiate me? What's going to make my profile pop and make people show interest? And I think that's what you're talking about there. Like what's kind of the green flags that you see with candidates or profiles? It's like, this is going to pop. Obviously visually appealing, but give a quick, I
mean, obviously you want to have, you absolutely need to have a profile picture. And there's a lot of, there's 1,000 different ways that you can do it. And you don't have to go to Sears to do a photo shoot, right? But
please don't.
So as it relates to salespeople in the industry, I won't even speak to somebody if they don't have a LinkedIn profile, because like, what are you doing? What's going on here? The other thing too is, unfortunately, as a recruiter, if you see somebody that job hops too often, you won't touch them. Your client doesn't want to see them. You don't want to speak to them. And unfortunately, the role that I play is, I tell everybody, like, my position is to facilitate the opportunity to have a conversation with my client. Mm-hmm. So if you're not positioned properly to even get to the opportunity to showcase who you are on an interview, then unfortunately, you're selling yourself short. So if there's gaps, or if you have job hopping, you've got to find a way to either strategize bringing those all together, or just leave them off the profile. Because, unfortunately, it's just not going to go well. You're not going to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's mixed messages out there. If you follow some people on LinkedIn, they'll say, oh, this doesn't matter, and you have a life. And I'm like, that's a fantasy, right? That's a fantasy. You want to believe that, and maybe that's how it should be, but go to an actual recruiter and they will tell you that's not how it is in reality. I'm sad. I'm sad about that. I don't agree with it. I'm just reporting back to you what it is in reality. And so, I agree with you. But the ultimate goal, I think, is just to get in the door, like, let your personality shine, let your value shine. And once you do that, if you sell yourself, if you're your own brand, then, okay, we overlook that, right? Because we love this. We fell in love with this person that we interviewed and the whole bit. But getting into that door is going to require some work and some massaging, whether we like it or not, because it's just the reality of the world that we live in. Is that fair? I mean, a fair statement.
Absolutely. Like the same thing, I talked to a girl earlier today, and we're going to be optimizing her profile. And I let her know, once your profile is completely optimized, in the email that we send with everything, all the changes that we made, we'll tell you how to keep the momentum going. And one of the things that I said is, you get maybe like 150 or 200 connection requests a week. Use those. Target the companies that you want to get into. And once people accept your connection, write them a quick message and say, hey, I see you work at ABC company. I've been following you guys for a while. I'd love the opportunity to talk to somebody there, because this is my dream job. Or even just make it something about them. Hey, I see you ride motorcycles. Have you ever been to Sturgis? People like to talk about themselves. Yeah. So, but she wouldn't be able to do that with how her profile looked before, because he's going to look at her profile and be like, what does this girl want? And just brush her off. Yep. But if you position yourself as like, hey, I'm a rock star and I am confident and bold enough to just send the stranger a message. I mean, look, people aren't as cruel as you think. they could ignore you, or they could say, reach out to Tracy in HR and tell her I sent you. Like you got to be bold. You got to stand out, but you have to have the profile and the brand that you represent really truly be strategically positioned in order to get an opportunity.
Yeah. And I think too, I really hesitate to say what I'm about to say, so I might edit this out at the end. It's a little bit like dating, right? It's
totally like dating.
It's a little bit like online dating in a form of that, except it's not about a personal relationship, it's a business relationship, but
Yeah.
it's very similar. I mean, is that true?
It
Or are you
is 100% like dating. And I'll tell you a funny story. So
feel much better.
But no, well, you haven't been in the dating world. I have, but it is. So it's okay. So when I read Tim Ferriss's book in 2014, and I recognized that I was a networker and I could put people together for purpose, I was living in Miami, and sure enough, I launched a matchmaking company. So this was over 10 years ago. And it was because it's the same dynamic. You're putting people together for purpose. Quite frankly, like I hated it. And in Miami, you've got like the girls that want to date the athletes, and then the guys that are making $30,000 a year, they want to date the models. And it was just, I didn't love it.
How's that work? Does that work?
I ended up getting the company got acquired by a TV show that was doing like a reality show on matchmaking. So they acquired the company for our book of business. And I was like, ta, never again.
Yeah.
But that's why it is funny, because back then I knew I was supposed to be in recruiting, but just like everything is, it just wasn't the time. So it really is like, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. When I send over a candidate, my job is to sell to my client why they should even consider having a call with the person that I'm presenting. And I really have to build this person up as well, because if I believe in them, I have to position them in a way that my client's going to say, you know what, Cal, yes, go ahead and set up a call. Because there's a lot of work on my part that I have to do. Unfortunately, if your resume is terrible, or if your LinkedIn is atrocious, you're just making my job harder, even if I believe that you're a rock star. So sometimes I'll kind of go into my system and I'll change your resume around to put it in a different format and build it up a bit in order to get you an opportunity, because I know that you're good. But if you're out there and you're trying to position yourself for the next opportunity or role, you should already be well ahead of that. And the other thing too, like I talk to all these people that reach out to me, and so many of them are asking me to set them up with like a VP role or a C-level role. And I'm like, you need to be strategic in positioning yourself to appear as though you are C-level or a VP level person. You're an executive. And quite frankly, the VP and the C-level roles, those aren't the ones that get posted on Indeed or LinkedIn. No. Those are the ones that recruiters actually go out and source for. And how do we source? We use our technology that creates that funnel based on your LinkedIn profile. So you got to be prepared for it, or you're missing out on God knows how many opportunities.
Yep. And you see, I mean, if I'm listening to this podcast, if I'm out there, what I hear is, man, if somebody out there is working with Kelly and she knows what's up, I'm at a huge disadvantage. If I'm on my own and I'm trying to do this based on my own thing, I'm going to get stomped, because there's pros out there that know how to do this. They're in the game, they're network, they know how to optimize. And like you're losing, right? You're losing. And so to those people, I say, you can just kind of stomp your feet and complain about how unfair the job market is and everything, but figure it out, right? Like, here's what's happening. Here's what's happening behind the scenes, and you're just kind of getting left in the dust. So reach out, reach out to somebody like a Kelly and get an advantage. I mean, that's how it goes. Like, that's what the people are doing. So now let me shift gears a little bit, because I've heard, or I've seen you post about this online before on LinkedIn.
Oh, who knows where you're going?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's like on pins and needles over there. I don't know what this question is going to be, but so it's about the phrase, know your worth. For candidates out there. I mean, we hear this all the time. It's important to know your worth, but I think it's one of those things that people hear, but they don't really hear. You know what I mean? can you just talk about the like real importance of that and what all goes into knowing your worth and how people should really internalize that at a deeper level than I think maybe they are?
Yeah. So I think like in a broad aspect of it, it's like know your worth and, be confident and know who
Yeah.
you are and the value that you bring. But the point that I try to make, especially because I sit at a recruiter's desk, is that, look, I get so many amazing opportunities that come across my desk. And I source and I try to find great candidates to present. So therefore, I'm reaching out to mainly people that are currently employed, probably very happy where they are.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, hey, I've got an opportunity. Let's hop on a quick call. I don't take more time than's necessary, but I always want to get on a call because I like to explain in detail. And as a recruiter, you don't want to just email a bunch of riffraff. Like we like to connect and have a conversation with me to just see what other opportunities are out there. Maybe your employer is selling you short. And unfortunately, because you just choose not to take a call from a recruiter, you have no idea what you're worth in the market. I know I mentioned the guy that was doing 180 and then took my call and I said, hey, I got this great opportunity for you. I was able to negotiate $250,000 for this guy.
Boom.
Yeah, boom.
Market changed.
100%. But he told me, he's like, it's funny you contact me because I've never entertained a recruiter. The only reason why I'm speaking with you is because I see that you come from a logistics freight background. So I'll talk to you. Well, that guy, sure enough, he went back to his employer and he's like, dude, what the heck? I just got a job opportunity for $250,000 and that's $70,000 more than y'all been paying me for the last 7 years. So what did his company do? They turned around and gave him a bonus and up to salary and they kept him. But it was because he had that conversation with me and recognizing what was out there that he learned what he was worth to his company and he stayed with them.
Yeah, you can't read the label from inside the bottle.
Nope.
You've heard that figure of speech before. It takes somebody sometimes that's outside of the bottle who can clearly see the label and be like, hey, this label's changing, man. This market is changing. You don't see that. Reach out to me. I'm up here in a hot air balloon looking down and I can give you this perspective that you don't have. And that's very valuable because I've ran into many people exactly like what you said, that they don't realize. And the company's never going to, no company is going to willingly come to you out of the goodness of their heart and say, gosh, we're underpaying you by 70 grand. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. Right. It's just not happening. Right. So
I think about my own career. So I spent like 13 to 15 years in outside sales for logistics transportation. And they basically treated you as though if you talk to a recruiter, they made it as though you were in a marriage and that you were going out and stepping out.
Yeah.
And it was such a terrible situation. And they had the fear of God in us. I mean, they had us on golden handcuffs. I was making this tiny little pitiful salary. And then we had to do like 7 times our base salary just to keep our jobs in GP. And then we maybe got like a small 3%, once we hit that number. And I had no clue what I was worth in the market. Yeah. And I left so much money on the table, made these companies so much money. And at the same time, I'm just scraping and clawing in order to keep my job, not even recognizing that, the company next door would have paid me double salary and paid me percentage from $1. So I wish I knew then what I know now, but that's just the way it works. So I tell people, I'm like, don't turn down an opportunity to take a phone call from a recruiter if they reach out. You never know. It could change your life.
And that's one of those things too, that it's only when you look back on it that you really start to get pissed a little bit. And you look back and you're like, man, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was so green. And then it gets out of control. They took advantage of me and they should have seen, but really, it really falls on you. I think that the person, if you're really being honest, like you need to know your own worth, and how you go about doing that is exactly what you said. Don't not pick up your phone, like talk with people, learn, get educated, reach out, network. And through all of that, then I think you will begin to have a good idea of what your worth is. You can't like Google it, right? Yeah. Like something's going to come up, but that's not really the whole picture. It takes like putting yourself out there and learning and networking and talking from people, and then you have a good idea. And it can change from year to year depending
100%.
on how the market is. So you can't just kind of rest on your laurels there, that type thing. So let me ask you
my
this.
father
Oh,
always said,
sorry.
it's not what you know, it's who you know. So
Yeah.
network. Yeah.
Especially now in 2025. Like
Yeah.
I am a somewhat of a fairly introverted person naturally, which is crazy that I do this podcast and meet all these people, but that's just me. That's my personality. That's how I am. But I'm like, I can't just be in my shell and expect to accelerate in my career in this day and age. 1975, maybe it was a little bit different, but 2025, whether I like it or not, that's just not how the industry works, right? And that's not how the world works. And so that's why I love to come across people like you and talk with you. And why I created the whole website really was for people out there working in warehouses to have an avenue where they can come learn knowledge and network and expand and grow and the whole thing. And it sounds like you do a lot of that too. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let me ask this question. Job seekers everywhere, the number one complaint that we see online is I'm getting ghosted, right? It's the number one gripe. It's everywhere. But what do you say? I mean, what do you say to people, candidates or companies, right? I guess companies could have the same thing too. What do you say to the people out there that say, I'm really starting to lose steam and I'm losing my heart for this because I'm just getting ghosted by the company or by the recruiter or whatever. What advice do you have for those folks?
I 100% get it. And like, look, sales is a numbers game, right? So same thing we went back to, like, you haven't been in the dating world, but it's the same thing. Like, it happens. Like, it's unfortunate. And especially, if you put all of your eggs into one basket, like it's going to happen. And look, I mean, recruiters as a whole, a lot of companies, they just try to churn clients and candidates, and they're not really building that rapport. I'd like to think that I have a good rapport with everybody that I work with, but heck, let's face it. A lot of the times what happens is the client will ghost the recruiter. And then all of a sudden, because you don't hear back from the client, you're failing to update the candidate. And there's a lot of different scenarios that happen. But that's why it's like, continue to have a reach, continue to just build your network of, people that you're working with, recruiters, companies that you're targeting, because again, sales is a numbers game. And in the job market right now, as a job seeker, you truly have to put on your sales hat and go out there and knock on doors and sell yourself. Just as I said, connect with people at companies that you want to work with. You've got to grind in order to find the position that you want. And the truth is, if it came super easy for you, you wouldn't have like the utmost respect for maybe the job that you secure. The more blood, sweat, and tears that you put into yourself and in the confidence in working for yourself, I mean, ultimately that's going to pay off, and it's going to keep you humble. So what happens? Look, I'm guilty of it. I've definitely had probably ghosted people in the past. It's unfortunate because that's not who I choose to represent myself as. But that's why, again, even if you're in the dating world, I tell people the same thing. Like, don't throw everything at one person. You've got to go out. You've got to meet people. You've got to still connect, and you really have to put yourself out there. So, try not to take things personal. Don't get offended. It's business. The right opportunity will come along, but don't expect to just sit on your couch watching Netflix all day and expect for somebody to knock on your door offering you a $200,000 salary. Like, that's just not how it works.
No, it's just not. It's not going to work that way. And I mean, I get it too. But you're right. Like, don't take it personal. It's very difficult when you apply for something and your heart's in it and all that. But take it from somebody who has seen a lot of resumes and hired and everything. It is not. It's not something you should take personal. It's either it just wasn't a culture fit or whatever. Yes, should companies always follow back with candidates? Absolutely, they totally should. But you don't know, they might have 50 that they're reviewing, and they're just not going to take the time to call 50 people back, maybe a couple, and then they'll move on. But it's not anything against you. And I've been on the other side of it. Yeah, you get mad. You're like, why am I not getting called back? Why am I not getting called back? At least tell me no. But yeah, I mean, I think
it's frustrating. But as a job seeker, especially in this market, don't let anything destroy your confidence. You have to persevere. You have to rise above. If you like myself, me, my husband, every single day in the morning, we're listening to motivational speeches, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube. whatever it does to make sure that like you're getting up and you're like, I'm a freaking badass.
Yeah. Feed your brain.
Yeah. And, look, they say that rejection is so powerful that hurts just as bad as getting punched in the gut. So I get it. But guess what? It's going to happen. You need to put yourself out there and you need to rise above it because you are in charge of your fate and your destiny, nobody else. Don't get mad at the recruiter that you didn't get the job. Don't get mad at the company. It's all on you and just keep it moving. Yeah. Positive attitude will get you much, much further than just getting negative and having a very bad disposition. And trust me, I talk to candidates all day, every day that they're exhausted, they're hurt, they're deflated, and I get it. But that's not the type of energy that companies and my clients want to speak to. They want somebody that's like joyous, full of energy, happy, excited to get up every day. So sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. And I know it's out there, but you got to do what you got to do. It's a grind.
Yep. And I think that's the best advice. That's way better, I think, than telling people, oh, well, they didn't deserve you anyway. No, not that. Right. Keep moving. Right. Yeah. Keep moving. You feed your brain with positivity. Next. Right. Yeah. And when it hits, it will hit. That's the secret.
But the same thing too, like anybody that's going through it and you might be unemployed and you're looking, you need to continue to have a positive lifestyle. So look, if you're not working, cut out that hour of the day and go exercise, go for a walk, build up your endorphins, make yourself a better person and position yourself and your lifestyle. So that way, when the right opportunity comes around, you're going to be excited. They're going to be excited to have you because you're going to be the best version of yourself.
Back to dating, Kelly. That's what you should do when you're trying, right? Yeah. So we're back there again. There's a lot of parallels to that, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So now is a part of the show that I'm excited about. You are a published author and a motivational speaker. So I have a special stage set up for you. Right. Oh. So no, not that. Where am I? Yes, this. All right. So this is your book. You are a published author and motivational speaker of a book called Acclaimed Journey to Aloha, which is right there on the screen. So what was that like for you? I've never written a book myself, so I'm a little bit envious of people that have. What was that like? Like what was it like bringing something that was in your head to fruition? And then what motivated you to write it? Because it's a very cool book. And by the way, I looked at the reviews that the people wrote for you on your book, and these are not surface level reviews. Like these are very genuine, authentic people speaking from the heart about the review that they're writing on your book. And that's how I think that it's something good and something special and unique. So tell me about writing the book, because it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying all that because it's interesting. Do you know that only 0.04% of people are actually published authors? So it is like it's a huge achievement, and I was able to check that box, which is really cool. Again, I wrote the book in 2018 to basically tell my story about this crazy God-sized awakening that I had, and ultimately it was like my testimony. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is really geared around the fact that throughout my career and everything that I was doing, I was really, really praying that I'd come across a husband at some point. So like in everything that I did, I was always like, all right, today I'm going to meet my husband and the love of my life and Prince Charming. And that's the truth. So a lot of that went into the book leading up to, this basically powerful story of giving it all away, breaking free of the golden handcuffs and coming alive to know my purpose and truth in life. So I did. I wrote the book in 2018. And then when me and my husband are out and about, people like to ask how we met. So I'm like, oh, I wrote a story about it. I wrote a book about it. And they're like, oh, great. Where can I pick up the book? And I was like, well, I didn't publish it. I just kind of, it's sitting on my computer. So there was honestly really nothing about me in terms of like ego that wanted to actually publish a book. But it was again that, it was maybe a little over a year ago that God came knocking on my door and he's like, I need you to publish this, because the truth is it's the story of my testimony and how I got to where I'm at. Because if this had never happened in 2017, I'd still be probably a logistics freight sales rep and probably just miserable, because it wasn't my purpose and my plan and what I was called to do. So the fact that I gave it all away and had a really ugly journey in between to get it all built up back and greater than I could have ever expected is the purpose of the book. And it's the same thing too. Like I say, when you see me and my husband together, we are a very good looking, handsome couple. So it looks like sunshine and rainbows, but I'm like, no, it wasn't always like this. It was a rough journey to get here. So when I went out to publish the book, I basically wanted to position it with a publisher that was a Christian publisher, because that was the message. And the truth is, the book's still very raw in terms of what I speak about in my journey. But it also has to be kind of dumbed down for the Christian audience. But once I decided to go that route, I actually had to finish the book, because I actually had to share that, like, I was given all the desires of my heart based upon like what I was promised back in like 2017 when I had the awakening. So yeah, I finished the book, gave everything to the publisher really to kind of go out there and manage. And then once I actually held the book in my hand, like, look, I don't have children, but to hold your book and your work in your hand, it's life-changing, because this is like my baby. So I am super proud of it. It's very raw, and quite frankly, like, as I've said before, it's, a lot of it's probably embarrassing to put out there for the world, but at the end of the day, it's my story. And I think it's powerful. And that's the other thing too, is like, I think I told you through LinkedIn, I do my best to always be authentic. So of course I'm sharing about business and updates and the company and what we do. But at the same time, I try to be authentic, and I share my life. I share my husband. I share my highs and my lows. So I think if you continue to go through life and show up authentically, it's going to resonate with a lot of people. And the story of the book, I think the goal, and especially for like motivational and inspirational speaking, it's really to teach people, like, don't get stuck in life. Don't get stuck with golden handcuffs or a job that you hate, living in a geographical location that you despise. Like, you can change your life. It's not going to be easy per se, but pursue your dreams, because life is short. And the worst thing you can do is just have regrets. So just kind of like talking about walking out in faith and trusting God that he'll provide, everything that you need. And that's basically it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've never written a book, but obviously I created my own website and a podcast. And so the whole thing, and I remember in the beginning, and maybe you can relate to this, when you first write it, it's just you, and you're writing it and you're holding it and it's right there. No one else has seen it. But I remember that moment when it like went live, when it's out there. And then when you get your first review, you think, someone read my book. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know if I would be happier if 50 people see my site, or if 0 did, because you're like, oh man, this is just like, I made this, I'm putting it out there. And once you do, there's no going back. Like, people are going to read it. And what if they write a bad review or whatever? But who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it's you, it's yourself, it's your authentic creation, and you did it. And I'm really happy that you see that it's really resonating with people. I mean, it's right up there on the screen for everybody to see how they feel about it.
I literally think that, like, when I think about my book, I think that exact same thing. I'm like, dude, I basically just embarrassed myself to the world, like, because the book is about my homeless journey to Hawaii. And I mean, what that really entails. And it's raw, and it's me crying a lot and just trying to figure out everything. And I'm like, dude, how embarrassing is it for me? Because, when you look at my platform, I'm very professional, and I obviously have a very successful brand and company. So now I'm just like, well, let me pull down the veil and show you what really happened to get to here. And it's ugly, but so yeah,
that's endearing to people. That's endearing to people, right? Like, if you can get through that discomfort, right? If you can get through and past that, what's on the other side of that is just, oh man, it's so great, because people love it. They identify with you. You're their person. They connect, and those bonds are not really going to break. But in order to get there, you got to go through the mud.
Right.
But and don't turn back. But it's very uncomfortable, but I think it's way worth it. And you probably agree with me that once you get on the other side, you're like, wow, I would do that 10 times again, easy if I
Yeah.
had to.
If I
And
knew
now I
then,
want to encourage other people to do it,
yeah.
right?
If,
So they
if
can feel what I feel.
if you had told me 7 years ago today what my life would look like now after everything I went through and all the tears and all the crap, I mean, I would have gone through it all again and again and again.
Yep.
And so I had to actually, it's funny because when I wrote the book initially, I didn't have a happy ending because my life hadn't progressed there yet. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, back then I was like, I can't publish the book because there's no happy
Yeah.
ending. You know, it's like, yeah, give away everything you've ever owned and leave your world and your life and your job and then move to Hawaii. Ta-da. And so that's why it took time to actually put the end of the story. And the last page is actually the picture of my wedding with my super handsome husband to be like,
Yeah.
this is what God gave me.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy because back when you're like single and wanting, same thing with job seekers. When you're wanting a job and you're wanting a role, you're almost like, well, I'll settle for anything, you know, and in dating, well, I'll just settle for anybody. But if you truly put your faith in God, as I see it, he's going to set you up for something so much greater than you could ever ask for. And like, that's the message to who I am, my book, my company. I'm super grateful that I do have a company that I get to share my faith openly. And yeah, so that's what it all comes down to.
I love it. I mean, I love that. I think that is really inspiring and honest and authentic. And that's how people should be. If you can be that way in 2025 or anytime, you will find that your energy level goes up, your enthusiasm goes up, your happiness level goes up. But just, it's hard, right? It's hard. But I tell people that all the time. I'm like, just send it. Like, just send it. See what happens. See what happens. Send it and see what happens. And the more you do it, the more that the rejection doesn't phase you at all, right? And then you only start to pick up the good stuff. So good on you.
It's interesting that you say that. So when I wrote the book, here's what happened. So I was kind of felt like I was told to write my story, and I was always a writer and just never really pursued it. So what happened was I got the word to write the book and then kind of ignored it a little bit. And that same day, I'd seen a meme where somebody said, start with one step, one glass of water, one page, start with one. And basically, it's just like anything. It's that repetition, like a podcast. So you do, you get through, you do the one episode and then you do the next and everything will just kind of, fall together. So you just have to
start. I always tell people this. I'm like, it's like going to the gym. If you don't feel like going to the gym, just go in there for 4 minutes. Hit the treadmill for 4 minutes and then quit. Because then your body kicks in. Your body takes over. It doesn't quit after 4 minutes because it feels good, right? Like you've got the momentum and everything's flowing, and then you want to go. But you gotta get through that first 4 minutes to get to that stuff on the other side. I've never seen anyone quit in the gym after 4 minutes. I've seen a lot of people not want to go and not go, but just go for 4 minutes and then quit because they won't quit.
Discipline always trumps motivation.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. And everybody acts like everybody tries to push motivation and be motivational, but the truth is, it fades. But if you're disciplined, that's what's sustainable. So, if you're a job seeker and you're looking for a new role, you've got to be consistent and persistent. If you want to get into, hot girl summer body, got to be consistent and persistent, just like anything. You can't just sit on your couch and expect great things to happen to you. You've got to be the one to create your destiny. And that's how I kind of put into the fact that faith without works is dead. So like, I've had to put on the faith, but I also had to pursue all these different things in order for God to actually work in my life. And it's not beautiful and it's a hard road, but it's tough. You just have to have like complete and utter faith. Wow.
Yep. And you got to kind of fall in love with the process more so than the outcome. I think if you're into the process and you really start to love that grind and all that stuff, then you're good. That's golden. If you stare at the scoreboard every 2 minutes, that's not what you want to do, right? You want to be playing in the game. So Well, cool. So where can people find out more about you? Like what do you got out there? I know you have your own personal website that you told me is coming online soon, and Acclaim Recruiters. And what do you got? What do you got on the horizon for 2025 and beyond?
Yeah. So obviously LinkedIn is key. Like definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, follow for content, reach out. I mentioned today that I personally respond to every single message I get. Obviously not like super timely.
I vouch for that.
Yes, but I do get back to everybody, and I always try to offer support, whatever that looks like. I might not necessarily have a role for you, but like, let me help you optimize your profile. Of course, you can go to kellydockrell.com and buy the book and learn a little bit more about the journey, Acclaimed Journey to Aloha. And of course, this year is a big year. We continue to grow our client base. Obviously, the logistics transportation space is a little bit wonky, but there's still opportunities and companies are still hiring.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of keeping a pulse on what's going on in the market. Obviously, companies are looking at the revenue and they're streamlining a lot of their processes. So there are layoffs, but there's still opportunities that companies are hiring. And then, the other part of that is, of course, I'm still doing inspirational talks, motivational speeches, getting hired. I'm basically, I have the ability to travel for these talks, whether it's like a corporate event, church event, really anything like that. All the information's on the website. And just onward and upward.
Cool.
If you know me long enough, I'm always up to something. So you just have to keep it going.
I can see that.
Yeah. So super excited to talk to you. I know that we've been going back and forth for a while, so I was excited to hop on this podcast. I like what you're doing.
No, it was awesome. I mean, it was awesome, right? So like, thanks again for coming on. And I really wanted to have somebody like you on the show, but meeting you now, even more engaging than I thought that you might be. So I think you can offer a ton of great information out there for companies, organizations, candidates, people in general, right? Like, I mean, when I say, I think everyone should follow you because they're just going to get raw, real, insightful nuggets of goodness from you on LinkedIn. And if they choose to kind of work with you further, I hope people do that too, because it can be a hard game out there. It can be kind of hard to navigate, but that's why it's really beneficial, I think, to have somebody like you in their corner to say, hey, look, I know how this works. I know this game. Here's how you need to do. I love that. I really hope that if there's anybody that's listening, I hope they take advantage of that, because particularly in the warehousing and distribution career, Kelly, just between me and you, not necessarily the best at networking and kind of putting themselves out there. Yeah, they work in a box. They tend to be very hard nosed and work hard, and I respect that and I appreciate that. But,
clock in, clock out.
But that mentality is not serving them well. And so to put somebody like you in front of them as a resource, I think is potentially great, right? Like awesome for them to really help nudge them along the way. And I really like it. I really respect what you're doing and respect the book, and I appreciate you again. And come on the show anytime. Just let me know.
Definitely. That's been fun. I'll definitely share with my audience too, because I think it's helpful. To just kind of share this platform. People need to know what's going on.
Maybe you come back and we talk about Air Force stuff here in another year. You tell me how things are going there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm still very, very, very new. I don't come from a military background or family or anything. So I decided to come on board as the key support liaison for my husband's squadron.
Very cool.
Mainly because I'm nosy. So that allows me to kind of keep in touch. But I mean, it's all foreign to me currently. We just put in for a PCS. We applied for Germany, Italy, Portugal, Japan, Hawaii. And we should maybe find out this week. So we're like, send it. Let's go.
Yeah. Good luck. I mean, that's some beautiful places over there. So I hope you get something good.
Yeah. We don't have kids. We have a dog and 2 bunny rabbits. So I don't know.
Are they going?
What's that?
Are they going to Europe with you?
Yeah. These are our children. The one bunny is sitting in my office closet right now, and he's chewing on a box. And I was trying to get him to stop when we were on the call. Call him Fat Phil.
He wants me to keep talking so he can chew more and more of the box away. I like that.
I was on a call the other day, and the two bunnies came into my office, and they were at like samurai war, and you could hear them bouncing around. And I'm on the call, and I was like, "Can you hear background?" And he's like, "Yeah, a little bit." And I was like, "I'm going to tell you something you've never heard before, and you'll probably never hear before again." I was like, "I have two bunny rabbits at war in my office right now." And like they fly up in the air, kick each other. It's like, we have a weird household, but
yeah. Well, yeah, I feel a follow-on show coming on with the cameras on the bunny rabbits. I mean, I think people want to see that.
Yeah,
like, we got to make this happen.
I absolutely agree. We are a weird family, but we love it.
Good deal. Well, Kelly, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. I appreciate being on. Super fun. Love what you're doing.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Like I said, thank you again, and come back anytime. And, good luck to you and your family and Acclaim Recruiters. And I think you're going to great places, and take care of your bunny rabbits too. Don't want anything bad to happen to them.
Yeah. It's wild. Cool. So, well, when you get this posted, I'll share it with my network as well.
You got it. We'll do. Take care, Kelly.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that concludes today's show. Thanks again for tuning in and checking out Kelly and Acclaim Recruiters, and go visit the website. Check out her book. Check out her website. If you are in this industry and you are seeking somebody that can help you navigate the waters of the job market, how to posture yourself, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile with resumes, I really think that Kelly would be a fantastic resource for you. And I think that you should really seek her out and explore her. So with that, I'll see you again next week for the next podcast. Remember, sign up for the community if you have not already done that at thewarehouseunderground.com. Cool content already posted in there, networking, knowledge share, information share. We did a live event. We're hopeful to do more in the future. So check that out, and check out the Tiger Team show. If you haven't checked out the Tiger Team show, it's witty comedy and humor about things that are going on inside DCs and FCs around the country. So check it out. I think you guys will like it. So with that, I will see you next week at the next podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.